I'm calling this workshop to order, please. We're going to begin with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Satterfield.
The pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. I see no elected officials out there. If you're there, please raise your hand. All right. I know Superintendent Thomas will have some other things to say in his report, but I just wanted to say from everything that I have heard so far, it sounds like we have had a remarkably smooth opening of school. And for those of you that may be listening that have had a hiccup or two, if you will remember that we're dealing with 60,000 students, and to make all that come together the first day is quite a feat in and of itself. But thank you, administrators downtown and in the schools and teachers and everyone that's worked so hard to make this year start as smoothly as I think I have known a year to go. So thank you again. That's very, very much appreciated. An announcement for the board members. Our TSBA Fall District East Tennessee meeting is Tuesday, September 17th. Board members, if you'd please look at your calendars. It's going to be at Maryville High School this year. And if you've not let Terry know about it, please do so that she can make a reservation for us. That is all that I have here. I'll move on to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Norman, second by Horn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The biggest news, of course, is that the new academic year began on Monday, and I'm happy to report that our schools are off to a great start. I visited several schools this week and been so impressed with the enthusiasm and dedication of our teachers, principals, staff, and students. There's not enough time to share all the positive stories, but for me, some of the highlights were visiting a middle school where students will be using 3D printers to make prosthetic hands, visiting a high school whose ACT Academy has led to significant progress in student scores, and visiting an elementary school where a family raised $500 for the school with a lemonade stand and online giving campaign. I know that this list is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm looking forward to all the great accomplishments that will happen throughout Knox County schools in the upcoming year. I wanted to mention an important event that's happening later this month. Our Partners in Education Kickoff Breakfast will take place Tuesday, August the 20th at 7:30 a.m. at the University of Tennessee Medical Center. This is a great opportunity to thank our generous community partners, and I wanted to invite members of the board to participate if your schedule permits. And finally, a quick reminder that Tuesday, August the 27th, will be a Student in-Service Day, since many of our schools will be used as voting sites for the Knoxville City primary being held that day. Also, Labor Day holiday will be celebrated on Monday, September 2nd, and our school's central office and maintenance will be closed that day. Madam Chair, members of the board, this concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Board, does anyone have any questions or comments addressed to Mr. Thomas? Seeing none, we'll move along. I'm beginning our board agenda. I'm looking at number 6, letter C, items and contracts. Looking at number 1, 2, 3, number 4. Is this on 3, Ms. Owen? Apologize. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if we have any kind of estimate about, I mean, not an official estimate, but a guesstimate of what that overall project might cost.
Probably Mr. Oakes.
Yes, ma'am. And we projected this in the capital plan for this year. And Robert Campbell, who has the design contract, did the analysis for us on this originally last year. And their estimate is about $1.3 million.
All right, thank you. Moving on to 4, 5, item 6, 7, 8, 7 again?
No, back to 6.
Oh, 6, all right. Ms. Owen?
I'm sorry. Does anyone know what is Tennessee specific about these certifications? And I'm interested in why we are looking at Tennessee specific industry certifications rather than national or international certifications.
I'm assuming Mr. Wyrick, Dr. Wyrick? Wyrick?
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Thank you, Ms. Owens. I'll try to speak for Dr. Wilson, who actually had a family illness and couldn't be here today. But these actually are industry certifications, and so the way our students get those in the Career Tech Ed is by different companies that put those assessments together. And these 3 areas are areas that I think that doesn't exist. So the State Department has developed the assessment for these to provide industry certification. So I don't think that they're specific just to Tennessee. I think it's just the Tennessee Department of Ed that's doing those for the industries.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other lights, we'll look at item 7, 8, 9, 10, item 11, 12, and 13. Moving on to number 7, board policies. I believe these are all second readings. Looking at A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Moving on to number 8. Oh, did you, Mr. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to speak to G and the use of cell phones in the school. I want to keep voicing my objection to our current policy as regards especially the high school in support of the portion of the policy which is really like our middle school policy that basically does not allow cell phone use during the day. So we've talked about this a lot. I consider the list of cons to the use of cell phones much, much greater than the positive aspects, and so I'm going to continue to speak against it. I just don't think that that the majority of students, the vast majority of students, have the maturity to use cell phones appropriately in the school. And so I just think that that's pretty severe. I recognize that's a pretty severe approach to it, but I think that's the way to go. And at the very least, I mean, if we modify the policy, I think at the very least the cell phones should only be used at class change or during lunch. But I would advocate for the former, the policy as it exists in the middle school, which is put them in your backpack and don't get them out till 3:30. And so I'll continue to speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. Seeing no other lights, I'm moving on to number 8, grants. Item A. Moving on to number 9, contracts. Letter A. And moving on to number 10, regular agenda items, letter A. Ms. Horn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering if we could have a rough timetable on if this is approved, what the next steps are, and what the timetable for that renovation would be.
Mr. Oakes, I see you looking back at
Mr. Dillingham would be best to address that.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Horn. Once the board approves the schematic design, they will move forward into design development and then construction documents. So I anticipate that we will probably be ready to put this on the streets, hopefully sometime around the first of the year, just after the first of the year. It somewhat dependent on the architect's schedule as well, and there's a lot of work going on out there right now. So once we get this, then we can kind of finalize what their schedule is going to be. But I anticipate it's probably going to be on the streets to bid probably sometime late winter, early spring, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Babb?
This is probably a question for Mr. Dillingham again, but I'm just wondering, do we see much disruption to the everyday work going on at Powell while construction goes on?
Thank you, Ms. Babb. We do our level best to try to minimize any disruption whatsoever. It's impossible to mitigate all of it, especially where this project is going to be taking place. But I think it's a very much needed renovation to this school with what it's going to provide. And, you know, anyone that is in there working will have been through a background check, and we will try to maintain construction barriers as much as we possibly can to keep the students separated from the work that's going on.
Ms. Bounds?
Yes, I wanted to thank you, Doug, and Russ as well. And I did get a chance to talk to Dr. Smith yesterday and wanted to express to the board that he and Mr. Dillingham have worked very closely together on this plan, and it has the full approval of the principal, and they worked very well together. So much needed plan. Thank you, Doug and Russ.
All right, seeing no other lights. This does bring to mind, though, and perhaps Mr. Oakes on our at our Wednesday meeting, if you wouldn't mind maybe just bringing a brief update on basically the 3 school projects, new or redesigned schools that are on our that were approved, exactly maybe where we are in those 3 scenarios. I'm talking about Lonsdale and Adrian Burnett and Northwest School. Okay, thank you. All right, that completes items on our agenda. Moving on to public forum, Ms. Horn.
Madam Chair, we have no one signed up for public forum this evening.
All right. Moving on to board forum then. District 1?
Nothing.
District 2? Mr. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to say, basically, God bless all the teachers and staff as we come back to school. What I remember most about being a teacher and starting the year was just the incredible amount of energy that it requires and the pressure that starts to build 2 or 3 weeks before the start of school. And so I know what it's like, and I just hope that our teachers are in good places, our staff and our teachers are excited about working, and their colleagues are helpful, and in those instances where they aren't, I hope that they can manage to make it through and improve it as they go. But just God bless them all. Thanks.
Thank you. District 4?
No.
5. 6, myself. No. 7.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the mayor and Knox County Schools. Some of us had the opportunity to go to the new school Mania, which was at a new facility, and I know Ms. Babb and I were talking before the meeting that it was really well organized this year and even an improvement from years past. So thank you to Mayor Jacobs and Knox County Schools, and I guess Carly had a lot to do with that, so.
8 and 9. All right. Anything else? Mr. Kelly, would you like to add anything? How did it go at Carnes High School?
I just want to say that back to school has been this has been the easiest year transitioning back into high school. So I guess this is something on everybody's end, but it's been pretty smooth. I haven't really noticed anything that was off course. So thank you all for doing the work on the back end so that we can have a successful end on our end.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Seeing no other lights.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Horn,
Second.
second by Norman. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.